Good evening. It's lovely to see you. We're small in number, so it might seem a little bit excessive that I've got a microphone, but we are recording the conversation this evening to go on the Cathedral's YouTube channel, which is quite a vibrant and lively community, and many will tune in and listen to this. And we need the microphones for them to hear what we're talking about, otherwise we'd just be like silent movie characters. Thank you for coming. Our Assemble Conversations are a series of events that we try to run to stimulate conversation in Chester. One of my first impressions of Chester when I arrived here 8 years ago as the Dean was that we're a fairly non-controversial city that doesn't engage very strongly with the conversation that is running around society in all sorts of areas. So issues that in some communities matter greatly, the conversation in Chester is quiet. And what we're trying to do as a cathedral is stir that up and create some real engagement with the issues that matter hugely in our own British society, but also across the world. In fact, we've even gone almost interstellar, haven't we, with who owns the moon, which got us into questions of what territory is and what nations are and why people want to claim ground as their own. And we see in the turbulent world we live in now some of the fruits of that. The discussion about what it means to be black in Britain is a conversation that really matters, and again is not a conversation that takes place strongly in this city. So we hope that what we say in this room and what we can carry on the YouTube channel really opens that up for us across the city. I'm delighted that we've got G. Walker with us this evening, and you brought Dominique, your daughter, also. We grew up in the same community. I call it Huyton. It is a community that has a tarnished reputation, and the murder of your own son, G, is part of the what tarnishes the reputation of that community. And I've felt very close to that story as somebody who 25 years before had gone to the same school as Anthony, and indeed the same school that Dominique went to. So it's lovely to have you here and to bring that story, painful, although it must be every time you re-enter it, to us here. So thank you. And it's terrific, Chinny, to have you as well. Thank you for making the journey. You are kind enough to make the journey a couple of times a year to be with us. Chinny is the director of Theos, the Religion and Society think tank. Previously, the head of public engagement at Christian Aid. 2 decades of experience in journalism, media and communications across the faiths, and still speaking and writing regularly in the media. Our own leadership team at this cathedral is reading your book, God is Not a White Man, at the moment. Thank you for writing your story in that book as you have. It's giving us a great deal of food for thought. Chinny's also Vice Chair of the Greenbelt Festival. Those of you who know that Christian Arts Festival, continues to be a trustee of Christian Aid and Demos. And well, there's so many other terrifically important things that you do. I won't list them all. But of course, the greatest of them all is being Canon Theologian at Chester Cathedral, for which we thank you. I'm going to hand over to you now and leave this evening in your safe hands.
Well, it's a real joy and a privilege to be here with you, G, this evening. For those who don't know who G Walker is the founder and patron of the Anthony Walker Foundation. She established the charity in 2006 after her son Anthony was murdered in a racially motivated attack just outside of Liverpool. G has received many accolades in that time, an honorary Doctor of Laws from the University of Liverpool, which she dedicated to her son. G has also received a Hope University honorary fellowship in 2007. She received a Churchill Fellowship and visited New York and Jamaica to experience youth projects that were successful in empowering young people to become leaders. She's received lots of awards, including some honorary degrees, the Prime Minister's Point of Lights Award, and the Echo Outstanding Achievement Award. She also received the Pride of Britain Award in 2021 and her MBE she collected last year. She was also included in Liverpool Echo's 100 Inspiring Women who have made their mark on Merseyside for International Women's Day. And G is a Christian and talks a lot about her faith. And I have you've kind of been in the background, obviously, for most of the past 20 years in different spaces in which I have worked. I read this morning an article from the Evangelical Alliance website shortly after Anthony had died, in which you talked about forgiveness. And I worked for the Crown Prosecution Service a few years after that, and there was kind of a talk about Anthony in that space as well. And I'm really delighted to be able to get the opportunity to speak to you about Anthony, but about motherhood, about grief, about gender, being a woman. We're going to have a conversation and see where we get to. So a lot of those accolades, you kind of spoke briefly about being kind of thrust into the limelight in a way that you hadn't expected. And I want to ask you, before we kind of come on to kind of motherhood, let's talk about Anthony. Fewer people know the story of his life. What was he like? What was he becoming before his life was taken from him?
Anthony, that's my boy. I don't know for others, but for me, I had 3 daughters, and it would have been nice to have a son. So I think it was heaven sent. I prayed. And I think I got everything I asked for. He was my delight, my pride, my joy. Loved his sisters. Oh, goodness gracious me. That boy taught me what it is to love. And I know they're feeling it also. Dominique sitting there, she was closest in age to him, so they were like twins. And I see her pain because she thought she was the older sister, she should have protected her younger brother, but we know life doesn't work like that. I know it's not a cliche, and I'm not wearing, yes, my glass might be tinted, so I'm eye sensitive. So these are not posed, I can't see you without these. Otherwise the light hurt my eyes. Anthony was loving. he was caring for his sisters and me. I'll give you an example. I watched that boy grow. When he was 6 months old, I was in a car accident and I thought I'd lost him because he was supposed to be moving and he wasn't moving. And I had a word with God and said, please, you're giving me this child. I asked for him and he gave him to me and I'm not letting him go. A couple of times he had a close call. I remember once his elder sister had to dial 999 because he just went limp on me. And again, I prayed, God, please, you're giving me this boy. I'm not letting him go. When we got to the hospital, the ambulance guy, the paramedic, looked at me because I thought he'd gone, and I handed him this bundle. And when I got to the hospital, I'm not laughing, he put Anthony down and just rolled him out, and this boy just like, I looked at the paramedic and said, you saw, didn't you? And he looked at me and said, yes, I saw. And they couldn't find anything that was wrong with him. And they said, would you like me to keep him? I said, oh no, I'm taking him home. And so his life was threatened even before he was born. I was in a car accident and so many things that happened. And then 18 years old, the worst, the inevitable happened. Take away all the light of my life, my heaven sent, my golden child. And I know life's never been the same without him, because even his first job he got, he bought me a little diamond tea, and he said, Mom, one day this will be real. It's gone green now, but I still kept it. He said, one day this will be diamond. And we'd be driving along and he'd look at nice houses and he'd said, which one would you like? I'm going to get that for you. And that was a child. He had wisdom beyond his years because marriages break down. Mine sadly did. And he stepped into the role. They might call it old-fashioned, but I'm telling you, he had wisdom beyond his years. He took care of his sisters, he really did. And he took care of me. And he had the potential to be a great man. And, oh yeah, I could talk about him. Go on.
He sounds wonderful. No, he sounds wonderful. And one of the things I read was that he was also very committed to his church.
Oh, yes. He was, I don't know for you guys, but when your son corrects you, it burns. He was the one who would, Mom, remember quoting scriptures to me? I'm going, oops, oops. Yes, and he was second in leadership to the youth leader. He was just such a godly person, so much so. I remember taking him one Sunday to a trial. Basketball was his passion. He loved that. Next to God, that was his, And he had his ball. Everywhere that boy went, he had his basketball with him. They went together, boom, boom. You can hear Anthony coming a mile away, bouncing his ball. I thought that's what would have taken him out, the ball running into the road and him chasing the ball, but sadly that wasn't the case. Yeah. If the ball had taken him, I could have understood what happened to him. I just still cannot get my head around it. Yeah, he was a godly person. I was saying that I'd taken him to a basketball trial on the way to church, dropped him off, got to church, sat down, and there was a boy next to me. I'm saying, what are you doing here? Just dropped you off? You going for a trial? He said, Mom, it's Sunday, and I just had to be in church. I'll try another time. And he was committed to when his word meant so much.
As you were talking about those almost near misses when he was, when you're pregnant with him or when he was young.
I was pregnant, yeah.
So one of the things I'm really interested in is motherhood. That's what I've written about, Unmaking Mary, my book. And in it I write about that fear that every mother has, that the worst is about to happen. And I think that you sense it in the fear or anxiety that a lot of women feel when they're pregnant, or in those early weeks where people rush to A&E because their children are ill. It feels like motherhood is like vigilance, like Lucy Jones, the writer, describes it as motherhood as being like a sentinel, like constantly watching. And obviously every mother's worst nightmare is for their child to die or their child to be killed. I don't even know how to answer this question, but maybe I'll come at it like the worst did happen for Anthony, and you just talked about how if it had been a ball that did it, you might have understood, but he was killed in a racially motivated attack. What does that mean for you? What kind of feelings does that evoke for you? What does that mean?
When you say worst nightmare, it is. Because as Black parents as well, it's sort of from the start it's difficult because you're celebrating, but because of the world around us, there's always that element of you want to protect them, but you can't. And there is just that element of celebration, but there's always that little, because I'm a woman of faith, I'm always praying for God's protection over them. And my daughter always reminds me, I always question myself, that night I've forgotten to say, God protect you. But they soon bring me back, Mom. They always go, Mom, pull me back, because I could go down that dark path that I'd forgotten to pray protection over him that night. So our celebration is always different as Black mothers. We shouldn't have to live like this. Our celebration is always, always have that, that somebody's gonna hurt him, because he was such a nice lad that his aunt and the women in the family said, we're gonna choose your wife because we want the right person for you, because we would not want you to get hurt. That's how protective they were of him. They want to choose even his wife.
But for Anthony, in those years, did he experience racism at school, in the community, before his death?
It was a daily thing.
Daily?
It was daily. Where we live was it was safe, and home was, hopefully, I try my best to make it a sanctuary, a place of love, where when they come home, we're safe. I tried my best. I just hope I did fulfill that, because I could see it in them. And when they come home, yes, relief. Yeah, it was a daily thing, just walking along. You got the name calling. The worst thing is when they try to harm you. We've fought many battles, physically, mentally, psychology, every ology you could think of. We came up against it on a daily basis. But thank God the school, I had a good headmaster whose name was also Anthony. So we protected him like he was his own son. And anything they reported to him, he'd jump on them like he was on it. None of this nonsense in my school, he'd say. It was tough.
Yeah. So was there a part of you that was not surprised about what happened, or was it?
We wasn't, no one expect the worst. You don't, we would never, my little mind could not comprehend that such a thing would happen.
Yeah.
Because that's not, well, yeah, they call your name, but you thought, okay. Yeah. We would never, no way in my wildest dream did I even perceive. No, I could not, no.
Yeah.
I never thought that would have happened. And especially to Anthony, because he was really loved in the community. People, even parents were coming up to me and telling me if Anthony, they're telling me now that if there was, say, kids' party and Anthony wasn't going, the first question they'd ask their son, is Anthony going? And if Anthony wasn't going, you're not going. I remember this mother coming up to me and said she just bought new carpet and she asked them not to bring anyone home. And then she said, in horror, she stood there and then when he looked, he stood at the door and looked down, and he turned to the lady's son and said, take your shoes off, your mum's got new carpet. So he's very, he sees. Yeah. He said, take your shoes off, your mum's got new carpet. And the mother continued to tell me that. Not only that, she said she was surprised. She said, oh, come in. She said to me, Anthony got my son to tidy his room, to do the washing up. What? And she said, bring him along. He's welcome to come. So he was, and that's why they were so supportive, because you mentioned Anthony, and everyone thought, their first reaction, oh, not our Anthony. And once they realized, yes, it's your Anthony. So to this day, they're feeling it. Yeah, they're hurting too.
So, I was 9 years old and living in Eltham in southeast London when Stephen Lawrence was killed, and the bus stop around the corner from where we lived. And it was the early 90s. It was that period around South London where the National Front, the EDL, those people were kind of rising in prominence. So kind of we talk about skinheads. I was so young and an immigrant family. I felt in those weeks and months, probably years after that tragic murder, I just felt very visible in a predominantly white community, a black family, where there's been a racist attack. So I guess my question for you is, like, what conversations about race did you have after that for those the black people within that community, for your own family? What was it like in those days, weeks, months, years afterwards?
There weren't many of us. I think there were two families. We were the only black. Well, even in the classroom, my children are the only black children. But like I said, they did come up against it. The other family, I think they were older, so my family bear the brunt of it all. And you could say they ended up being pioneers for the ones who've come after them. I've forgotten the question, sorry.
I guess, what was it like for your own family, both being Anthony's family in the aftermath of that, but also being a black family within a space where there was such a thing could happen?
Well, I've never seen such outpouring of grief, because as soon as they realized it was black, they claimed him. So that's why I have to share him with them, because I thought, I'm just a mother, they've taken him. So I just said, okay, he's yours as well, because the hate's coming from somewhere where I don't know, because Anthony had he survived, I think, because he was such a nice person, and he attract people. He walked into this room and he brought something, a presence, where it sort of draws people to him, because even the ones who killed him actually apologized and said to me, I didn't know it was Anthony. Yeah, I won't go down that path because, like I said, he was well known and well loved by those who loved him, I would say. I don't know where this hate coming from, but like I said, it was happening. And we went through crazy. We fought a lot about just walking along. There were territories that you weren't along. You were sort of not allowed to cross territory, cross that border. But somehow, Anthony, bless him.
See, I think our household was a mixed household in the sense that... Okay, yeah. Our household was a mixed household in the sense that we were quite affirmed in our Jamaicanness through our food and our culture, and by the way that we spoke to each other as well, and our the way that we communed, the way that we fellowshiped together. But then we were also Scouts as well, you notice from the accent, so it was quite a dual heritage in that sense. We had I suppose different cultures as part of our understanding and affirmation of blackness. For me, our main affirmation in relation to my mum was that black was always beautiful. It was a house that when we went outside, it was those experiences of racism that myself and Anthony both experienced from young up until and after what happened to Anthony as well. So for me, the conversation of blackness and being affirmed in blackness and anti-racist practice, which again is tied to social justice as well, was something that we was always taught. So those conversations didn't stop once Anthony died. It obviously continued and then was kind of poured into the work for the Anthony Walker Foundation as well. So Mum might not recognise that I had that affirmation in relation to me being a black woman and being secure in that, and understanding the difficulties that came with that. Times where you're invisible and hyper visible at the same time. My mum was able to articulate those things by the way that obviously we conducted ourselves as well as having conversations about race and anti-racism, which was continuous. So it didn't stop, it just went into the foundation, I think. But then myself and my other brothers and sisters had to almost go on this journey in relation to affirming what it meant to be black in 2005. And again, you still do that even now in 2026 as well, but that was continuous. It was not something that started and stopped with Anthony, it was continuous.
Thank you.
Yeah, because where we lived, we have a big garden, so it was open house. All the kids around us came to ours. If their parents couldn't find them, they know exactly where to come. So I just fed them all. So they know where to come. And so it was open door, and the parents knew that they would be safe. So it's when you step out of that's when things happen.
I think that's what the experience of many black communities in Britain are. It's because... So I'm Nigerian. I was born in Nigeria. Nigerians are the proudest people. We think we're the best. So part of the kind of why racism feels so kind of discombobulating is the only word I can say, is because at home we're really like, we're loved. We think we're the best, and you step out into a space where you're like the opposite. I think that's why it can feel so conflicting. So you've joined for many years you've been part of a club that no one wants to be part of. But in that club, I would include Doreen Lawrence or many black mothers throughout history who have, whose children have been killed, whose black children have been killed, and then they become, they're almost like propelled into the limelight or turned into advocates. What has that been like for you? That almost that you know, you're a grieving mother, but also now almost this symbol of forgiveness, or all of these kind of ideas that might be people might propel onto you. But also this kind of the cause that you have, the foundation, all of this stuff. Where does that come from? That sense of fighting rather than just wanting to curl up in a ball and not do anything.
That's exactly what I wanted to do, but I was not allowed to do that because Anthony, like you said, they claimed him, and we were under pressure you've got to do something. And we were resistant because we were saying, what more do you want? If you've taken my son, what more can I give? And we were told there is more. We've got to do something. So at dinner time, there goes the plates, and we started a foundation around the dinner table. So it was born out of grief. The pain became a purpose. And we had forgiveness was something we lived every day. So people cannot understand. I'm thinking, every day we come home, it was sort of become a part of our makeup, forgiveness. Anthony always used to say to me, Mum, someone's got to show them. I didn't understand what he meant. I didn't understand. But when he says things, because he was so wise, I pondered. And he would always say, when things happen, Mum, someone's got to show them. And I'm thinking, so there was the foundation born. We became advocate to support, to listen, to address issues, to challenge. We didn't ask for it, but it came knocking on our doors. And because of the person who Anthony was, he was such a kind, gentle, he fulfilled the 9th fruit of the Spirit, love, peace. He had such joy, patience, goodness, kindness, humility, and he had such resilience. Zilla thought, I can't let those greatness die. I have to hear what these people are saying. And then Anthony Walker Foundation was born. We became advocates.
And what does the foundation exist to do?
Oh dear. First we started being educators of racism, telling my story, and schools and churches ask the question about forgiveness, where did it come from? And I said it's a part of us, because each day we wake up, we have to keep forgiving. It's either do or die, and we chose to live. And whatever happens, I always say to the kids, just move out the way. Sometimes we just gotta let things go past. And so we have you're ducking, you're diving, and we could physically help people, because what I noticed that I didn't know about it, anywhere we could go to for help and support. So Anthony, the pain turned into purpose, and because of, like I said, the guy had such potential to be great, and we could not allow that greatness to die or be forgotten. And as a mother, I know my son, his heart, his intention, so we had to take it and take Anthony on our journey. Yes, it hurts, but we're helping others. We had a few. What happened was the money that people gave, the donation, We didn't realize it was to help us with the expenses, so we were struggling. So we used it to start the foundation. And there are people knocking, and they're going, I need help, my neighbor's getting on my nerves, what can I do? We'd install cameras for evidence, and we started going into school, education, and then we don't just leave them, we travel, we're on a journey with them, we support them, we address the issues, we listen, we challenge what we can challenge. We'd work closely with the police, and we sort of take some of that burden off them, we free them up, and we'd journey with the victims, they call them, and do our best, and they know that we're there. I call the staff, the angel at the voice of at the other end of the phone, because when you're going through stuff, yeah, you're saying in your prayer, but sometimes you need someone physical, or you just need someone to say, I'm with you, I get it, I understand, come, let's talk, let's reason, let's go on the journey together. And it's amazing. I'm walking along and people coming up, thank you for what you're doing. I was walking in the park and this 6-year-old boy, bless my new was 6 because he'd lost his teeth, big grin. Oh, Mrs. Walker, thank you so much. You came into my school and you talked to the kids, and I'm happier now. And he said, really? He said, yes, I like going to school now. I'm so happy. He said, thank you. So, and that happens quite often. I said, did I go into your school? He said, yes, you came into my school, and it's so much better.
Well, one final question for me before I open it up to others who might want to ask a question. In my book, Unmaking Mary, I explore how Mary, Mother of Jesus, is in some ways seen as this kind of oppressive figure because she's so presented as so perfect, beautiful, put together, spotless. But in kind of rediscovering Mary and kind of looking at the Mary of the Bible, I see a woman who is, yes, the mother of God, but the worst thing imaginable happens to her too. She is at the foot of the cross as she watches her son die. And so for me, Mary has become this, those words, I am with you, this kind of figure of solidarity for many mothers or women who go through pain and tragedy. So I want to ask you what reflections you have on Mary, but also how has your faith sustained you or changed for you over these years? How does it help you, and where does Mary come into your thinking?
Oh, Mama Mary. I call her Mama Mary. Oh, gosh. I'm telling you, I've lost a sister. I've lost my brother. I've lost my mother and my father. I don't know why, but somehow when you lose a child, the pain seems to multiply. And I don't wish that on my worst enemy. When you lose a child, I don't know what happened with the pain. Oh gosh, it's the pain that it's, for instance, when the first time you get the news, what happens? If you get, it doesn't matter, bad news, what happens? You hit the floor. You tend to, you drop. And sometimes it's thankfully for the people of Liverpool, they reached out and picked us up, so that's helpful. But then they go and you're left with, it's me and you, Jesus, me and you, God. Holy Spirit, where are you? And some people turn away. I thought, okay, I was not expecting this, but it happened. So what am I supposed to do with this pain? So I had to make a choice, it's do or die. So I chose to forgive. I didn't seek revenge because I know the scripture. Vengeance is mine, said God. He will repay. So I thought, okay, you've got that. Then Romans 8:28, all things work together for good. So all these scriptures coming back, and because Anthony would remind me anyway. So I had no choice but to remember them. And what good can come out of this? Anthony Walker Foundation, and helping others who in the situation similar to ours. Mama Mary, oh gosh, I can just visualize her because the similarity was when her son's there, but she can't touch him. I was the same. When they kill you, you can't touch them. So that's something. And the first thing when your child, you want to hold them, but you can't. So she's looking up and she can't touch him either. I couldn't touch him. But the children, somebody told me that I couldn't touch Anthony, but I grabbed his feet. They said I was holding on to his feet and just fighting them off. To at least allow me that. Let me at least touch his feet. So there's that similarity as well. I'm no doubt that once they'd gone, she ran and grabbed his feet as well. Because you're not touching the body, please just allow me to at least touch his feet. And that's where some similarity, but there's no pain to compare. Watching your child die and there's nothing you can do. You just have to sit there. Watch him die. And, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Okay. Thank you. Now we've got some time to share any further questions, I think, for G, but also Dominique, if if there are any questions for you that people want to ask, because you're obviously a big part of this story. Would anyone like to ask a question?
Yeah, it struck me very much that it was a sort of public grief, and you were thrown because you were in the spotlight. And actually, did you get the opportunity to grieve privately, I suppose, would be the question. You've obviously got a very loving family, and were you able to lock the door and grieve for yourself?
We weren't, we're not fortunate to, that wasn't afforded to us. We had to grieve publicly because they said it's 20 years, but for us, every day is yesterday and last night. As a family, they're grown now and they're gone, and still, as a family, we didn't get the opportunity to grieve, really, because we had to, the foundation started just immediately. About 6 months later, Anthony Walker Foundation was born. So we weren't really allowed to grieve as a family. The children are grown and we grieve separately because we still going on. But yeah, we get moments, but I don't know what it's like to grieve, to be honest. I don't know if it happens along the journey, but we weren't afforded that, were we? We wasn't afforded that opportunity. Yeah, let's say.
I think I would say When we were talking about this in the car on the way here, when Anthony passed, I think for the first about 2 or 3 weeks, my mum didn't speak. So she didn't speak to us. And I think she was in, I think that was probably the most intense grief probably that I'd seen, obviously as a daughter. So what we both again talked about is that we've both got holes in memory because of trauma. So I don't think Mum remembers that part. So she did have, and I think there's been moments where she's been allowed to sort of go away, where she's been allowed to find solace, to find peace. The church that she goes to now, those are places where I think she was able to grieve. But I think grief is work, it's continuous. And whilst you, with time, I don't believe time is a healer. I actually don't believe that. Mum will give her viewpoint, but I think for me, from the perspective of being a sibling and then watching a parent lose a child, I think the way that you manage grief, again, is in waves, because it's obviously your outpouring of love for that person. It's got to go somewhere. So we can go into a range of obviously positive things, or it can go into negative things as well. So I think Mum has directed a lot of her grief work in relation to the foundation and reaching out to people. And I remember some of the early work that we did with the foundation. That is, obviously we're an anti-racism organisation that has got hate crime service, we've got education and work that we do, and then we've got like stuff that we do, got like tackling racism awards and different anti-racism work that we do in schools as well. Some of the early work that we used to do was other people had lost children. So I remember doing a lot of that work. Very early on, going to visit other mothers, going to visit other siblings. So that's what I was doing as well, to give them sort of like a pathway. One of the things Doreen did for Mum was to give her that space. Doreen's son spent time with my brother Daniel, who was only 13, 14 at the time as well, probably younger, was he younger? A little bit younger at the time as well. So I think anniversaries, birthdays, Christmas, those are times of obviously intense remembering of that person. So for me, it's grief is waves, but it's work, and it's continuous, and it's not. I'd say it's not for the faint of heart as well, but it is something that we're all going to experience in different ways. So we have to get well versed in how we talk about death and about how we talk about loss. And although they're really difficult and painful and emotional conversations to have, having those conversations is a start of the healing journey. And healing is a journey. It's not something that is just given. It's something almost that in some ways has to be earned through the things that you do. But for me, grief is work.
Yeah.
Do you want to add anything?
I agree with that. Like I said, dark grief, I don't know what it looks like, to be honest with you. And I would encourage other parents who lost children. I'm talking as a mother. People, you know, the first thing, people don't know what to say to you. We don't want you to say anything. We just want you to show up, just be there. Because if whatever you say is going to be wrong. So don't be afraid, I'm not going because I don't know what to say. Please, we don't want you to say anything. Just be that one who pick you up off the floor. Or I'll make you a cup of tea and I'll just sit. Because when we visit, like I said, when it first happened, we visited quite a few people who'd lost children. And when I go, I'll take the children with me if they've got siblings. So thanks to Doreen, she started that. She know how she made me feel. And I hope that when I go, because And the first thing they would say was, "You've helped me more than anyone else have helped me." And sometimes I just go and I'll sit. I don't say anything. I don't say I know or I understand, because each one's on a different journey. Yes, I've lost a child, but I don't know you're feeling. I understand what pain feels like in losing a child, but please don't feel pressure. I'm not going because I don't know what to say, or cross over the road, or I'm not going to spell. I'm not going to ask her any question, please. I'm not like that. Ask me question. I could talk about Anthony till Jesus comes back, because I just love my boy. I love to talk. I don't like to talk about what happened, but I love to talk about him, because in his short life, he's lived. There's so much to talk about him, and I don't want that to people to forget that. I want people to remember him, not what happened to him, but who the boy. They call him my boy, and now I have to share him. I said, "Our boy." Yeah. And so please, when someone passes, I'm not going because I don't know what to say. I always encourage. I remember someone lost a child in Birmingham, and the teacher rang me and said, "What do I say?" I said, "Don't say anything, just show up." And the feedback was, "Thank you," because somehow it did something to me, and it helped the parents to say, "Oh, the teacher showed up." So I said, all you gotta do is show up. Don't feel pressure. You don't have to say anything, because whatever you say is not gonna be right anyway. So please be quiet. That's one advice I would give to other parents or whoever's, Dominique says, grief, it is wave. You get moments, and hear what I'm saying. I'm not judging anyone, because they think, "Oh, time's a great healer," and I'm thinking, excuse me? Excuse me? Because you'll have people coming up to you at that time and saying time is a great healer. Please, no. Because like Dominic said, you've got the anniversary, and I'm always wondering what my son would be like today. I'm looking at houses and thought, would he have bought me that house? I'm looking at diamond, thought, I've never had a diamond. Would he have given me diamonds? I'm thinking the things I do. Sometime when I go into school, I said, "You all know his voice, so shout out loud. You all got his legs and his arms. You've got to do what he was meant to do. So now, get out there and do it."
A question for all of you, really. Last year we had an event, Ginny came and spoke as part of that, and where we were reflecting on what has or hasn't changed in the 5 years since George Floyd's murder and the Black Lives Matter protests. So what do you think has changed, if anything, in the years since Anthony's death in society, either for the better or the worse?
That's the person you should ask. Give her the mic.
Let's start positively. I think in the UK we've got one of the most robust hate crime frameworks across the world. The way that we deal with hate crime when things happen, it's rivaled across the world. In fact, they come and visit us in relation to our policy and practice and what we do here. So that is a positive. There are a number of different anti-racism strategies. Liverpool's just writ one. Liverpool City Region's writ one. We implore Chester to do its own anti-racism strategy as well. So there is all this dynamic work that is obviously going on. Community organisations are working closer together in relation to their anti-racism work, and we're starting to develop, I suppose, deeper understandings of race, identity, nationality, ethnicity, and what it means to each of us in 2026. Developing our racial literacy, which is something that most people had not heard about. We're having those conversations now where our discussions about anti-racist practice is based in discussion, it's based in action, it's based in healing as well. So those are the things positively that have changed. What has continued to keep coming round, I suppose, is the hate, is some of the racism, is the hostile environment against refugees and asylum seekers, the mistreatment still in relation to, for example, black males being stopped and searched at a higher rate than white males. So the persistence of, I suppose, structural racisms, organisational racism, institutional racism is probably more rife. But now we've got that coupled again when we thought we'd sort of got rid of it. The covert racism is basically the individual-based interpersonal racism's come to the forefront again. I know with our organisation, with the incidents that happened with the race riots last year, we had a 126% increase in the rate of hate crime that were reported to us. And this is race and religious hate crime. So for me, the fight for beloved community, which is basically affirming ourselves, our cultural differences, celebrating those things, being affirmed, and then uniting around values such as anti-racism, love, non-violence, all those different things. And Martin Luther King talked about this in the 60s and 70s, when the same things were happening at that time. We now have to develop a beloved community, a community that basically is resilient, that is affirmed in those values, and then goes about doing these small events, which might not seem to have much drip, 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 but it does. This is poignant. And the fact that it reverberates around the church as well means that, you know, God is watching, you know, the Holy Spirit is watching as well. So those things are affirmed in what we do. So while some things have changed positively, there are still those negatives that we still have to do the work and be consistent. And it's all of us moving to the growth zone in relation to our anti-racist journeys as well. But a lot of this work starts with us talking about these more difficult things. Obviously using my mum as an example as well, you know, being affirmed in those things. But a lot of our understandings about race and about how we feel about race, for example, when was the first time that you felt that you were white? If we had a museum, what would you put in it if it was about white people? Like we need to start having those, like I do that with my students because I talk about anti-racist practice in society and policing. If we were to start doing those conversations daily, that would again start to push the needle. So we've got to, you know, move away from the complacency that we had, that we're all okay, and that racism doesn't happen, it's not us. It's for us now to be affirmed that those things do happen, they have continued to happen, and we've got to do better. So for me, some things have changed, Anthony, but some things stay the same, so that means we've still got work to do. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, we've got a program currently running. It's called, we're going to school where the kids don't want to go to school because of the same racism and stuff. And we have a program where we have peer ambassadors, and goodness gracious, it's so successful. The schools, bless the schools are opening their doors and embracing we educate, we train, we challenge, and the schools know that they can call us and we go in. And we've got consultants and we've got people who train. We've got, you name the caliber, quite a few people who goes in and train the staff, and the young ambassadors. I've never seen such enthusiasm in anyone so young. And they're willing to take up the mantle. And when they do it with such passion. I'm doing this for Anthony. And it is very successful. Because that was one of my pain and my longing, how can we reach, what can we do to reach these children? And I'm thinking, the Bible said, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they're old, they'll not depart. So we're laying the foundation. And when you see those children in action, I know what HOPE means. I'm looking at hope. They give me hope. And I'm thinking, maybe my grandchildren won't have to sit where we've sat. I'm thinking, I often encourage them by saying, I know what hope looks like, and they give me hope that I can't lose that, and because they've taken the mantle, and I'm thinking, yes, George Floyd, Anthony, and the many Anthonys have not died in vain. These children, they've got it going on, and hopefully, yeah, they're getting the message across. Yeah, there's hope.
And on that note of hope, I was thinking, I guess I'll just answer the question from maybe I'll answer from the British Church perspective. Hope, I'm thinking about the Barack Obama 2008 poster, if we all kind of are familiar with it. What comes after Barack Obama? Donald Trump. And I think that's the situation that I feel like we've gone through in the past 5 years. My book, God Is Not a White Man, came out in 2021, the anniversary of George Floyd's murder. And everyone felt like there was a real reckoning with racial justice, that we were finally going to be moving beyond it. I think that lasted for about 18 months. Where if that, lots of organisations, employing racial justice advisors or diversity leads or appointing people to certain positions. I got lots of invitations to speak in lots of places about race. And then now, 2026, what follows? Christian nationalism and Tommy Robinson talking about Britain being white. Britain being Christian, which equals basically being white. So the backlash, clearly some people were not happy in that period, those 18 months or so, in which actually black people were maybe being seen as being propelled into unfair positions. So I think we're in the backlash stage to that, to the point where I find when I hear my book title being said now, God Is Not a White Man, I mean, it was always a bit awkward, but now it's like, it feels like, it's obviously it's so woke, she's one of those, because there's this anti-diversity, anti-DEI, even though it's American context that we're in. So in that very short period, I feel like we've gone way backwards. Obviously, there was a lot positive. I'd rather be living now than in the 60s, but in so many ways we have gone backwards. And what a note to end on, I would say.
Gosh,
thank you so much.
It's been such a privilege to hear you in conversation, the three of you in conversation, and it's been quite an intimate conversation that you've had. We've sort of listened in. Thank you for your openness and the sort of conversation that I could not have had with G. I think it needed a black mother to enter into that. So it really has been a privilege, full of real deep lived experience and spirituality, and also the learning that you bring as well. Thank you very much. There's so many more questions in my head, but I'm fortunate because we're shortly going out for a bite to eat, and I'm going to ask you those questions there. Having heard you and having entered into some of your pain as well, in these assemble meetings, we don't often do this, but I wonder whether we might just hold some time of silent, quiet prayer. And thank God for you, G, and for Dominique, and for what you bring. And remember in sadness Anthony, whose life was cut short, and Stephen Lawrence, and I was thinking of Damalola Taylor, and there are many, many others. Let us, just in the quiet, both give thanks and hold our sorrow before God. Dear Lord, we hold our society before you in deep sorrow and penitence, and with real hope. We thank you for all that is being done in the name of Anthony Walker, and we pray that it will bear fruit by the power of your Spirit, and in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you, and thank you all for being here and listening in. And I hope that those of you who tune in on YouTube also can sense the experience that we've had who are here in the room.
Thank you.